The Australian Fair Work Commission defines harassment in the workplace as any unwanted behaviour that offends or humiliates you, makes work a hostile work environment, and is targeted at you because of a personal characteristic. Let's see an example. Sam works as a shop assistant at a clothes shop. The other workers there constantly say mean things to him because he has autism. They regularly say things like, "Hey, Special Sam," and "Slow Sam." This could be considered harassment. So what is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment in the workplace is when a worker or group of workers makes an unwelcome sexual advance, makes an unwelcome request for sexual favors, or engages in other unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature in relation to another worker. Is to be sexual harassment, it has to be reasonable to expect that there is a possibility that the worker being sexually harassed would be offended, humiliated, or intimidated. This means that whether behavior is sexual harassment depends on how a reasonable person would interpret the behavior in that situation. Behavior that is sexual harassment in one situation may not be in a different situation. Examples of sexual harassment can include inappropriate physical contact, such as unwelcome touching, staring or leering, a suggestive comment or joke, a sexually explicit picture or poster, an unwanted invitation to go out on dates, a request for sex, intrusive questioning about a person's private life or body, unnecessary familiarity, such as deliberately brushing up against a person, an insult or a taunt of a sexual nature, a sexually explicit email or text message. So, is there such a thing as indirect sexual harassment? Yes. A person could also be sexually harassed by being exposed to or witnessing this kind of behavior, such as overhearing a conversation or seeing a sexually explicit poster in the workplace. Let's see an example. Ava works in an IT consultancy with Bill and Jack. Ava often overhears Bill and Jack making sexually inappropriate jokes to each other at work. Bill also has a sexually explicit screensaver on his work computer, which Ava often sees when she walks past his desk. Ava feels uncomfortable and talks to her manager. Bill and Jack say Ava is being too sensitive. They also say that what they talk about at work or have on their computers has nothing to do with her. Bill and Jack's behavior could still be considered sexual harassment, even though it doesn't involve Ava directly. Bullying and harassment. Unlike bullying, harassment or sexual harassment does not need to be continuous or repeated behavior. It can be a one-off event. However, harassment or sexual harassment can turn into bullying if it is continuous or repeated behavior. Let's look at this example. Cindy and Steve are colleagues at a cafe. On Cindy's second week on the job, Steve asks Cindy out on a date and she says, "I'm flattered, but I don't date people I work with." Over the next few weeks, Steve continues to ask Cindy out on a date and in front of other team members would say, "Come on, just give me a chance. What's the big deal? It's a free dinner. Geez, you're so rude." Steve's repeated requests for a date could be seen as sexual harassment and bullying. So, what type of impact does harassment have on someone? The impact of sexual harassment is similar to bullying, having an effect on a person's psychological and physical well-being. Reduced work performance, increased absenteeism, loss of self-esteem and feelings of isolation, deteriorating relationships with colleagues, friends and family, anxiety, distress and panic attacks, sleep disturbance, depression, physical illness and general poor health, loss of appetite, headaches, self-destructive behaviors such as self-harm and substance abuse, lack of motivation or passion in their usual interests. So, what if you've been harassed? Here are some things you can do. Address it, if comfortable and safe to do so. In some cases, the individual may not be aware that they have crossed a boundary with you. Review the company policies. Refer to the company grievance policy. This policy refers to the reporting procedures and provide insight into a formal and informal investigation. Document everything. Keep a record of incident, including dates, times, witnesses, and what happened. This documentation can be crucial if you need to report the harassment. Report the behavior. Report their behavior to a manager or HR. They will be able to address the situation and take you through next steps. Here's a thought: perception is reality. We all have our own unique life experiences. What may be important to one person may not be the case for someone else. The same goes, what you may find as not offensive may be offensive to someone else. So remember, the boundary line for everyone is different. In the instance where harassment is violent or physical, immediately call the police on 000 and notify a manager or HR. Harassment in the workplace is any unwanted behavior that offends or humiliates you, makes work a hostile work environment, and is targeted at you because of a personal characteristic. Sexual harassment in the workplace is when a worker or group of workers makes an unwelcome sexual advance, makes an unwelcome request for sexual favors, or engages in other unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature in relation to another worker, say. A person could also be sexually harassed by being exposed to or witnessing this kind of behavior, such as overhearing a conversation or seeing a sexually explicit poster in the workplace. This is known as indirect harassment. Unlike bullying, harassment or sexual harassment does not need to be continuous or repeated behavior. It can be a one-off event. The impact of harassment can have short or long-term effects on an individual or group. If you're being harassed, you can address it. Document everything, review company policies, and/or report the behavior.